Welcome to another episode of Unraveling Success. We are so excited to invite you to listen in on our Mashup session where we discuss the last 6 episodes of Unraveling Success. And as usual, I have two of my most favorite people with me, Caitlin Jensen and Whitney Elson from Aspire Insurance Group. I am honored to spend much of my days with these two. So you'll get a little glimpse of what it's like to chat with us on the daily. So thank you, Caitlin and Whitney, for joining me today. All right. So, what we've done in the past, and although we think we'll mix it up a little bit in the future, but we just are going to go through the last 6 episodes and just kind of talk about our ahas, our takeaways, things that we learned, and just kind of real brief highlights. One of the things that I am really passionate about is although I love growth and expanding and learning, I also think it's good to hit the pause button and take a minute to be like, what did we learn here? And what are we going to pull forward here? And just kind of marinate on things in a way where we can kind of pull our lessons forward rather than just binge on information. So we are going to be reviewing episodes by Lona Cook, Carla McKean, Holly Bloom, Katie House, and Aaron Miller. So let's get started and chat a little bit about the episode with Lona Cook. So I don't know who wants to kick us off with this, but thoughts and feedback on some of your highlights with Lona.
I can go. Oh, Caitlin, do you want to go? I'll go. Yeah, so it was a great episode. I think they all were. One of the things that really stuck out for me with Dr. Lona Cook was the strength that she had, and she just went with her gut. She was going to go to California, go a different route, not go with what she wanted to do when she was in high school, being a chiropractor. And that night she came home, told her mom, like, tomorrow I'm not going to California, and decided to sleep on it and changed her direction and what she wanted to do and go back to chiropractor school and go through that route. I just think that was amazing how she, just decided, like, I'm going to follow my path that I think is the right path and just go from there and see what comes of it. And that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think, with some of the things like she said about, changing her path where it's like you're going to spend a lifetime pursuing whatever you choose. And so you don't have to stop and go and just giving yourself grace to you can change. That's totally, a lot of people need to know that. And then also like with the school setting chiropractic work, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know that was a thing
Mm-hmm.
essentially. And so that's really cool that, she's doing that and leading that. And I'd love to see that, like, in my daughter's school even. Those are, like
Yeah.
it's real like, believing really well in chiropractic care too, like, as someone that does, it's like, "Oh, this is fun," like, "We jive," like, "Yeah, bring this here." But then also just, like, for her journey and all the things that she was going through and saying that, you don't really know what people are going through
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
in those moments where,
Mm-hmm.
you can, "Okay, like, everything is great, we're gonna, move on from it," but really, when you get home, you don't know what's going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think and a lot of people say that, just in general with, you don't know what everyone's going through, everyone has a different story, a different path,
Yeah.
but, and, like, trusting your body as a whole too, like, your body can tell you a lot of things, and so,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's really, really good to see, like, where she's been and where she's going and continue
Mm-hmm.
to path.
Yeah. I thought that was one of my shocks too, is how, she was so dead set on this one specific path and this one way that things were going to look. And
Mhm.
like how in, an over just like a good night's sleep, right? Can
Yeah.
just completely change your trajectory. And like that's a very brave move. And you have to, it made me wonder how many people are out there that were supposed to have that good night's sleep and make that change that didn't and are looking backwards, right? And being like the shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like,
Yeah.
what would have happened if, like, but they were maybe didn't have that bravery to like make that decision that their
Yeah.
gut was telling them that they
Yeah.
needed to do. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I'm 100% in agreement. That was Caitlin. That was one of my biggest things is like, wow, how, I mean, she's just been so successful as a practitioner and a business owner both, but also she is such a disruptor in her industry. Like
Yeah.
her being able to open clinics like she has, doesn't look in that doesn't exist other places.
No.
No.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. She's really inspiring. I wish I had had more time with her for
Mhm.
sure. And
Yeah.
um and just even her headspace, like she allows herself to like dream and
Mhm.
think outside the box,
Mhm.
um, which is refreshing to be
Yes,
around.
for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those people that you want to surround yourself with.
Mm.
It's going to
Yeah.
grow. We just talked about in our training today.
Yeah. It is true. Yeah.
Mhm.
She would be a friend that you would want to pick.
Mhm.
Yes, yes,
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah. So next is Carla McKean. Tell me your thoughts on Miss Carla and her story.
Yeah, with Carla, we've known her for a couple years now,
Mhm.
essentially, and familiar with her story from before she even came on the podcast. And so it's really cool to like kind of hear the start to finish, because
Mhm.
in the times that we're interacting, it's here and there and getting a little bit more information. But the one thing like that I wrote down where it was like when you're questioning yourself, like, do I have to try this? Really, what do I have to lose?
Mhm.
And like your hurdles don't stop here; it's going to keep going, and just going through all of the things that you've had to go through, and especially when which was kind of funny when talking about like within her practice, like insurance companies, so that it's way different world,
Mhm.
but with having to deal with like those billings and those kinds of things, and that
Mhm.
we're not going to turn somebody away if they need help, and
Mhm.
so like that her heart is really
Yeah.
in that industry. And so it's really fun to see where things have gone, and that really, yes, you care about the patient, the client, but also you have to care about your providers and make sure that they're doing okay too, because they're also taking on other
Mhm.
people's traumas and trying to help
Mhm.
people go through it. So that was some things that just really stood out to me, and that were really like it made you think.
Yeah,
So
Mhm.
for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Just staying like true to who she is and who her business, what she wants her business to be as well. Like
Mhm.
you said, Caitlin, even if it's, might be a little bit more work for them on the business side of things, working with insurance and accepting those where some other, companies might not accept those, just to help people and yeah, stay true to who she is. It's awesome.
Mhm. Yeah. I One of the things that I think with Carla is it's really cool to see someone who has gone through and we were talking about this before we started this episode, but watching somebody who goes through um a season in life where a lot of times that you would have like a lot of shame, or you would try to hide your past, or you would um wouldn't want to talk about it or anything like that. Like Carla's just like super vulnerable about it and open about it, and she was able to then take what she learned from that season in her life and then build a business that's like serving people that are
mhm.
navigating that same season that she navigated. And I think that that's really cool because you know when in Whitney, you alluded to our training that we had earlier today, in that training, they talked about how there was, five kids that were in a family, and there was a series of really sad, tragic, unfortunate events that kind of would put kids down a certain path, right? And but there was one of them that became just this uber successful person because they were bound and determined to like not repeat the cycle and not be put in the situation that they were in when they grew up. And but the rest of the siblings kind of ended up following the path that they were sent down, essentially, I guess you could say, right? But Carla would have been like the one that decided to not go down this path, and instead she chose to I guess you could say like take the bricks that were thrown at her and build her own
Yes.
empire, like,
Yeah.
like that kind of
Mhm.
philosophy. So I think the heart behind what she does is unique, because I think there's probably a lot of providers out there that haven't quite gone through things to the depth of what Carla has.
Mhm.
And so she probably understands things from like a different heart posture, So,
Mhm.
and I feel like you can see that in how she decision makes within her
Mhm.
business.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. I also really liked, I think it was towards the end, how she was talking about how she has learned to, when there's certain things that, like on the more on the business side of things, like there's certain things where she like doesn't thrive, kind of, she will delegate those items out, and I
Mm.
feel like we've worked on that a lot here at
Mm.
Aspire,
hmm
of just making sure if it's not going to fill your bucket, it might fill someone else's bucket and yours, and the fact that you can find something else that
yes.
fills your
Yes.
bucket up. So I think
hmm
that's the power of that is amazing, and also realizing that you need to do that, like
For
you
Mhm.
sure.
used to.
Yeah. Yep. And we definitely do that, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Delegate and elevate.
Uh-huh.
At least we try as best as we can.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So next up was Miss Holly Bloom. Fun fact about Miss Holly, and I don't know if she'll care if I said, but I used to babysit her. Did you guys know that? I think you
Yeah.
probably did at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually aren't that much different in age, but it's the time where like a sixth grader can babysit
Yeah.
like, a second grader or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
but we had actually been doing business together for a while before we figured it out because she was married. And so I
Sure.
didn't know her maiden name. And then I don't even know how it was that I figured out her maiden name. I was like, oh my gosh, I used to babysit you.
Yeah.
That's
Felt like a little light bulb moment. That's fun.
Yeah, it was super funny.
Oh, that's funny. I think with Holly, one of the things that, she talked about at the beginning is just that her main drive and her focus is to help others. And I think that's something that when even just like talking with her, you can feel that she's always looking
Mhm.
out for other people, wanting to help everyone around her.
hmm
And it's just so powerful to be surrounded by her. She's another one that, you would want to be your friend, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun to see her grow in her both businesses now and watch
Yeah.
her continue to help others, especially with her new venture with the Celebration of Life venue. It's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. That's so fun.
I
It's
didn't
unique.
know that.
I
Yeah.
know. Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I had coffee with her. Oh, it's been a couple months now, but I didn't know that they were starting that. And she was telling me her why and sharing it. And it was just like so passion filled. And um it was just really cool because how many funerals have we been to? Like now everybody, I mean, not that you need a body to celebrate a funeral. That's not the case,
Right.
right? But
Yeah.
now it's like everybody's cremated, so you go and there's like an urn and pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not very personal.
Yeah.
And you know at least in years past there was like you had a feeling like you were going to actually say goodbye a little bit more because there's in the
Sure.
past like a body or whatever. But I feel like with what Holly's doing, it
Mm-hmm.
puts the personal back in it like so much. And
Absolutely.
I feel like that is when you're saying goodbye to someone and you're celebrating their life, like that's
Yeah.
what we're all looking for, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, and then I think too, like one thing that I like, I mean, I write down a lot of things I really should say. But like every chapter leads you to the next. And
Mm-hmm.
just even going back um when her parents purchased their golf course and then, she's out of it and then now they have a golf course and her kids are around the same age and just the fun stuff of, her kids saying, "Oh, my mom used to pick up golf balls." When she
Yeah.
was younger, and it's cool, and it's fun to have those moments, and of course, when we're like, oh great, like I don't want this to be the same way for like when I experienced this growing up,
Yeah.
and those things where it's like you're gonna have those scares, but
Mhm.
they they have a good plan going, and
Mhm.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited to
Yeah.
see that grow even more, and it's been fun to just hear more of her story and how she got to where she is now too within the
Mhm.
financial world of
Yeah.
so
Yes. I totally agree.
Mhm.
It's been fun to watch her grow and
mhm.
expand, and I think it's so
Mhm.
ironic that her last name is Bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, right? I feel like
Uh-huh.
'cause I feel like that's what she's doing. So,
Mhm.
she's living up to her last namesake.
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but
Mhm.
one of the things I love about Holly is she's very others focused, and she
mhm,
is full of, like, heart. And, yeah, she's someone always will know that you can trust her motives
Yeah.
because she's just so, honest and, like, forthright and kind. Sh Yeah,
Mhm. Yes.
she's good stuff.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, let's chat a little bit about Miss Katie House.
Yeah. I love that her last name's House. I just do. I'm like, gosh, like
Say that
that's
too.
so just perfect.
I
Yeah.
Seriously, agreed.
It's like meant to be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah, I love that. I could relate a lot to the things of like, of what she was saying and your work and then think about like worrying more about your legacy than like the now present,
Mhm.
like, oh, what's gonna happen this next week? Like what are you going to leave behind and that type of thing. And
Mhm,
like as a parent, like of course it's like, oh, we want to make sure that, there we do leave some sort of a legacy in what we can do and also like investing in relationships and just educating more too. Like that was really cool. I felt like a lot of the stuff that she talked about really aligns with how we operate,
mhm.
which is always so fun when people or we're like, oh, we're twins,
Yeah,
like, but in total different like sectors of business
yeah.
and how you use it and and setting your goals, and just really having a plan going forward and not just living in the present. Like, of course, you want to be present and like focus and that type of thing and focusing on what is now, but also like 10 years down the road, like what's it going to look like now? Like I'm going into my 8th year of an insurance. Like look at where it
Yeah.
like wow, looking back then to now, it's total different.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see that and just making sure that you're focused on your growth, but also
Mhm,
knowing that, it'll be lasting.
mhm. Yeah.
Mhm. For me, with Katie, just seeing how she went from, she said she was a stay at home mom and
Mhm.
then going into real estate, I think that would take a lot of work, knowing that, real estate, from what I've seen, is not just a 9 to 5 job. So
Mhm,
just, staying true to herself and just continuing on. And I think she, said, like, talked about relationship building and how important that is. And I know that's something we talk about often as well. Um, just about how great, and important relationships are with
Yeah.
people that we have.
yeah. Um, One of the things about Katie that 'cause I've known Katie for, I don't know, it's maybe 10 years now.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the things that I can say that I've noticed about her is she has stayed so true to who she
Mhm.
is, like authentically who she is.
Yeah.
So when she came into business, like who Katie was 10 years ago is who Katie is right
Mhm.
now. Like
Yeah.
it's like in a shockingly real, like not compromise who you are.
Mhm.
And it's the thing that I really admire about her is she is so soft-hearted and she is so kind. She's gritty, like she's a hard worker and but she is like just very compassionate and genuine, and you
Yeah.
can feel that from her. And real estate can be a pretty like tough industry to be in, right? Like usually when I meet a realtor, I can almost sense it because there's this common thread of a personality that's like, it's almost woven through. Like, I don't know if you guys feel that too with,
Mhm.
but like, and it's not bad. It's a good thing, but there is this a little bit more of like an assertive feel, like it's just a
Right.
different personality. And rightfully so, because given the things that you navigate in real estate, it does call for like, you know, some certain personality characteristics that really are needed, right? Katie has like really like that feel with her, even though she has that component, she has this like soft feel where it's almost like you're a fly attracted to like, you know, sugar. Like
Yeah,
she's just like
true.
that, you know.
Yeah.
But there's no question why she's been able to like do such a good job at nurturing relationships
Yeah.
and building how she has and seeing the success that she has too, because you just kind of want to be around her. Like she's just
Right.
that
Yeah.
person.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. She's good stuff. It was really fun to connect with her. So
I on that too. I also liked when you guys were talking about vision boards. I think we all need to redo one. We
yeah.
always think about it, so
Yeah.
Yes.
it's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll have to bookmark that and circle back to that conversation so
Yeah,
we remember.
I will.
Thank you. Okay. So last and definitely not least is Aaron Miller. We all know Aaron Miller. So who wants
Yeah.
to start us off with Aaron?
Yeah, I just think, of course, his story is amazing. It's always so fun to hear, where he started and to
Mm-hmm.
where like Miller Brothers is at now.
Mm-hmm.
His struggles, I think he's very vulnerable about what they went through to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so fun to listen to him talk about it as well and just, be honest about, here's what happened. I was just opening credit cards and
Yeah.
constantly in debt and getting through that and getting to the other side of that is so amazing and cool to watch and see, of course, where they are now. And how strong how he just kept staying strong and everything through it all.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Yeah, I think like, there's a few things like on Aaron Miller. First of all, he's the jack of all trades, I'll tell you that. If I need something, I'll just give Aaron a call.
Yeah.
And I love that when he was talking about, he's like, yeah, I like mowing lawns, so why don't I just go to school for, Parks and Rec
I know.
and mow lawns? So it was just too funny, like, and coming from him, I'm just like, oh goodness. Um, but listening, I guess I didn't realize they were in business for like a long period of time before they really started like booming. And
Mm-hmm.
of course it's like, you're existing, things are going good, but then you're going into all this debt and these things are happening and it's hard, and then the recession comes and then I was like, oh gosh, like then what happened? Like as we're listening to the podcast, I'm like, okay, is there gonna be a cliffhanger here, like a part two coming? Like this is like
Mm-hmm.
what's the story leading up to kind of thing. But then and even just you getting to the point where you're okay, like we're making all these payments, we have all this debt. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time we just cut our losses and file for bankruptcy type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get to, when you get to that point too, it's like you're embarrassed about it. Like you're like, oh great, like I am a part of this group and I'm gonna go and talk to somebody about this.
Mm-hmm.
But when he said that, that lawyer said, well, how far behind are you? I'm not. Well, come back to me in 6 months when you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't do that. I pay my bills. Like, and so, like, seeing that where he
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, I guess this is an option, so what else? What's the next one?"
Yeah.
And, in that time period, everybody was doing the whole Dave Ramsey thing, and it
Mm-hmm.
worked for him, and then it got to him where he is now and getting rid of all that, but that also is, like, looking at back at, like, all the hard work that was done for that,
Yeah.
and, um Murphy's Law then also happening with his computer upgrades and then the
Oh
parking lot
gosh, isn't that true?
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that does happen, and, but then too, just, like, when he joined, like, this networking group for auto repair shops, that's when everything changed,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, I feel like that's it's a really good, like, testament to, like,
Yeah.
when you find the right people and you click in the right spots where it's like, oh my gosh, like what this is what I've been missing for these 19 years almost.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like you can go that long in business, be miserable. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is my last shot. and then getting the tools, and then he's working it, and then now seeing like just in these short 5 years, like it's like, oh wow, like look at it,
Mhm.
this is awesome. And just kind of being along the ride for that,
Mhm.
really cool to see. And now that Jacob is in the business now
Yeah.
too with him and seeing things, and it makes me happy that
Mm-hmm.
they're at such a great spot. And
Yeah.
just they took the chance and it paid off, and they're growing,
Yeah.
and it's so fun. I love when clients do it like that.
I
So
know. It's so fun to watch, isn't it? Like
yes.
it's
Hmm.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned within our episode, like I didn't know that he was trying to sell. I didn't
Yeah.
ever know that. So that was news to me. Um, and it added impact to his story. I knew about the credit card debt, and I think one of the things that I like about his story so much is that he's really vulnerable with that.
Yeah.
Um and I also felt like the two things that I think are really interesting is like remember he was a CPA,
Yeah.
and that still was like,
Yeah.
you know, something that he got like kind of caught up in. So I mean, I think a lot of people can maybe have identified with that and feel like maybe, shame around it, or
Right.
like, oh, I'm not good with finances. But like even someone who's trained in money,
Hmm.
like, when you're in business, like sometimes like desperate people do desperate things, right? And but he's really used, first of all, just being able to gain the skills to work himself out of that, I think is
Yes.
amazing. But then also, I've seen him help so many other business owners like around their finances too, because he's really learned from that, and he
Yeah.
uses it in a way where he's like blessing other people as well, which I think is
Hmm.
amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I love with him like how I just when I was doing that episode, it just the one thing that kept coming into my mind is how many times he's been redirected so many times
Hmm.
to kind of bring him where he is today.
Yes.
And even when it comes to like Jacob with school,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's
Totally.
like really amazing because when you see the story, now that the line is like longer, and you can kind of see how it was woven together,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this is really cool.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And even him saying like after everything that they've gone through, and and even when Jacob, he's like, I had no idea
Yeah.
that like it was like this, and it's and so that's something really cool to where that what didn't affect your kids. Yes, it affected all the things, but they didn't notice. And
yeah,
so then kind of just seeing like this is where we were, this is where we were here, and now this is what we're bringing into the future, as you're coming on to. And every time, like every trial that essentially he went through, he was like in the end, like he still was like everything was a blessing that he did,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
just full of grace that they, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's fun.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I loved when I know I talked about it earlier today too, but with you guys, when he realized that he outgrew his coach,
yes,
like
Yeah.
the power that it takes to notice those things is, it's not easy.
mm-hmm,
So when he realized that, that he was becoming friends with his coach, that he needed to find a different mentor that was actually in a, higher spot than him so that he will actually be able to grow and help use them to help him grow.
yeah,
And do that. So I thought that was,
yes. It's a big deal, and that's a hard thing it's just a hard thing to do, but if you are committed to growing, there's a high likelihood you'll be in some type of situation that looks
Mhm.
similar to that,
Yeah.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
the headspace of growing and yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Is there one episode that you guys feel like you had your biggest ahas, or like something that clicked that made you do something differently?
I would say probably Lona Cook's, of just, you know, staying true to yourself and going with that and not changing for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, says something, and it can definitely helps you grow too as well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
By just staying true to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like for me, Holly Bloom's was just with the, every chapter is leading you to the next. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where I'm at in my life
Yeah.
at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything will just, lead on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, it was probably Katie.
Mhm.
And the reason is because with Aspire, we've purchased 2 agencies over the past 10 years, but other than
Mhm.
that, we've only done organic growth.
Mhm.
And true to our character here, like we're more farmers when it comes to
Mhm.
sales than we are hunters, and that's very much also Katie's style,
Yeah.
and where it's more like relationship based, and we're not shoving policies down people's throats and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of times in business, like whenever I've gone through like sales training and all the trainings on how to grow a business, like
Mhm.
I feel like our how is the counter to what they tell you to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
right?
Very.
And it's worked
Mhm.
well, but
Mhm.
it's also just like, um, yeah, it's seeing Katie have success when she's growing in such a similar way
Yeah.
too is also
Mhm.
was just like, okay, see,
Yeah.
see,
People can do it. Like,
yeah,
'cause
Mhm. Yeah.
totally, when you get those calls or like those cold call vendor calls, I'm like, no, we grow organically. It's not hard.
yeah,
What do you mean? I think we can help you. I'm like, no, it's not hard. Like,
yeah.
go do some relationship building. Like, no,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I and no, we don't want to buy leads. Thank you.
yeah,
Right.
I'm good.
Yeah. Never done it that way. No.
No, it will be a cold day in hell.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. We will go door knocking first, right, Wit?
For that.
Oh, it's so funny. All right.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for joining us on Unraveling Success. And we would love to hear your stories. And so if you have somebody that you would like to nominate as a guest, check the link below and we will be sure to reach out to them.